Hello, it is so good to be with you. I am excited to sing some songs with you and have a little Bible study as well. I've really been encouraged by all of the nice things that have been said about our Pew Packer time that we're able to have together. Believe me, it's encouraging for me as well. So thank you so much. And I wish I could see all those little faces and hear all those little voices. It's one of my favorite things about being with you when we're together down there for Pew Packers. So I'm really looking forward to that day being here again. But let's begin together now. Let's sing a song that I know you all know. We usually start with this one, as Jesus Loves Me. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to Him belong. They are weak, but He is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. So last week we did the wise man. Let's do a different one this week that will get our hands moving a little bit, maybe help us to stay a little bit focused as we're singing together. So let's do the gospel chariot. Roll the gospel chariot along, roll the gospel chariot along, roll the gospel chariot along, and we won't tag along behind. If a brother's in the way, we will stop and pick him up. If a brother's in the way, we will stop and pick him up. If a brother's in the way, we will stop and pick him up, and we won't tag along behind. If a sister's in the way, we will stop and pick her up. If a sister's in the way, we will stop and pick her up. If a sister's in the way, we will stop and pick her up, and we won't tag along behind. All right, I gotta see those mean faces. If the devil's in the way, we will roll right over him. If the devil's in the way, we will roll right over him. If the devil's in the way, we will roll right over him, and we won't tag along behind. I had a hard time keeping a mean face. All right, we're going to sing another song, and this is one that I don't think we have ever sung at Pew Packers. In fact, I had to go look and make sure I knew the words, so you may see me looking down a little bit, and you're just going to have to kind of learn it with me. But we're going to sing this one. It's an old song, and I'm sure your parents probably know it, so maybe they'll sing along. So this song is called He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. 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 He's got the itty bitty baby in His hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in His hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got you and me, brother, in His hands. He's got you and me, brother, in His hands. He's got you and me, brother, in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got you and me, sister, in His hands. He's got you and me, sister, in His hands. He's got you and me, sister, in His hands. He's got the whole world 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 in His hands. So that was a new song, and it's a song that really got me thinking. So a song about God having the whole world right in His hands. And I thought it was a great song, and parents, this is a lesson for all of us. I thought it was a great song for everything that we're going through right now, as chaotic, as crazy as the world seems, God's got it all in His hands. Our God is very, very powerful. Our God is almighty. And that's what I wanted to talk about for just a couple of minutes here now. You know, one of my favorite movies is Aladdin. Honestly, I just kind of like the songs. The songs are one of my favorite part of that. But I've got a favorite line in that movie. And it's the one that says, phenomenal cosmic powers, itty bitty living space. I just think it's kind of a funny line. And when I think about that line, I think about when we're talking about God and how almighty and how powerful He is. Phenomenal cosmic powers. Why? Well, because God created the cosmos. But even in that line, the genie talks about having some limitations, right? He's stuck in a lamp. He can only grant 3 wishes, right? Well, God is not like that. Our God has no limitations. Our God is all powerful. When I read in Genesis chapter 18 and verse 14, a question is asked. It says, is anything too hard for the Lord? And the answer to that is no. In Judges 7, verse 1 through 8, we read about how powerful God is. You know, last week we talked about the Israelite army and how David went out and fought Goliath on behalf of the Israelites. Well, the Israelites, they had to fight quite a bit. And a lot of it was because they made some bad decisions. You know, the Israelites had a problem. They would keep turning their backs on God. They would keep quitting God. Can you believe it? And so in Judges chapter 7 and in chapter 6 we begin the story, but that's what the Israelites had done. They had turned their backs on God. And of course what happens? Well, they're overrun by their enemies. In particular, the Midianites. They overran the children of Israel. So the children of Israel, of course, turned back to God. They were complaining. They were sorrowful. They wanted God to save them. You know, the lesson there is, don't turn your back on God in the first place. And you won't need Him to bail you out, right? So the Israelites, they started coming back to God and saying, we need your help. And God chose a man named Gideon. Now, there wasn't anything really special about Gideon, and he admits that even himself. He was the lowliest of his family and the lowliest of the tribes. But God chose Gideon. So, of course, what did Gideon do? He started to build an army. And Gideon did a pretty good job building an army. Over 30,000 men he gathered to fight the Midianites. So, Gideon gathers all these men together, and what does God say in verse 2? Does He say, great job, Gideon? I can't believe you gathered this many people. This is awesome. This is exactly what we needed. No. God told Gideon, it's too many. Wait, what? Too many? But the Midianites have thousands of... God said it's too many. You know why? Because if there's this many Israelites, the Israelites will think they did it themselves. And they won't give God the glory. Wow. So in verse 4, Gideon is able to eliminate over 20,000 of those people. Why? Well, he just asked how many of y'all are scared. And over 20,000 of the 30,000 left and went home. And he had about 10,000 that remained. Now, do you think God said, perfect, this will do? No, God said, Gideon, still too many. Too many, still. So, God gave Gideon another opportunity to let some folks get out of the way. And He did. And now we have about 300, that's right, 300 men ready to face thousands in the Midianite army. And God said, this will work. This will do. And with His help, Gideon and his 300 men were able to defeat all of the Midianites and their men. God is all powerful. God is almighty. Even with only 300 men, he was able to accomplish what he needed to. And let's be honest, did God need 300? No, he didn't. God could have spoken into existence himself. God could have just said the words, and the Midianite army would have been wiped out. But with 300 men, Gideon and his army were able to accomplish what God wanted to his glory. God will take care of us. Even during this crazy time in this crazy world, God is there for us, and he can do anything. So let's remember that. When times get a little scary, when times are a little crazy out there, God has the whole world in his hands.
Faithful love flowing down from the thorn-covered crown makes me whole, saves my soul, washes whiter than snow. Faithful love calms each fear, reaches down, dries each tear, holds my hand when I can't stand on my own. Faithful love, from above, came to earth to show the Father's love, and I'll never be the same, for I've seen faithful love face to face, and Jesus is his name. Faithful love is a friend just when hope seems to end. Welcome face, sweet embrace, tender touch filled with grace. Faithful love, endless power, living flame, Spirit's fire, burning bright in the night, guiding my way. Faithful love, from above, came to earth to show the Father's love, and I'll never be the same, for I've seen faithful love face to face, and Jesus is his name. For I've seen faithful love face to face, and Jesus is his name.
Hey everybody, thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's Bible study. We're really glad that you're joining us tonight over the YouTube channel. Thanks much for that. So happy that Jeremy and Mac are at the table here tonight. We're going to be talking about the Lord's church as a body. We talk about this a lot, guys, but tonight's passage is from 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 really kind of breaks this thought down, you know, and gives us a lot to think about along these lines. We kind of agreed that we would get started reading a few passages. Jeremy's going to read. What do we agree on? Chapter 12 verses 12 through 15, 12 through 17 there, 12 through 17.
Yeah, we'll go 12 through 17. There's 15 total that seem to encompass this body idea, and when we think about the church being the body, it's no more body than this passage
That's
here.
right.
So, I mean, this is about as
That's right.
specific and as plain as it gets.
Exactly.
We'll start in 1 Corinthians 12. We're starting at verse 12. For even as the body is one, and yet has many members, and all the members of the body, though they are many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. If the foot says, because I am not a hand, I am not a part of this body, it is not for this reason any less a part of the body.
That's right.
And if the ear says, because I am not an eye, I am not part of this body, it is not for this reason any the less a part of the body. Mm-hmm. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole were hearing, where would the sense of smell be?
That's right. So that is that New American Standard?
New American Standard.
New American
Yes, sir.
Standard Version. English Standard Version. I noticed that kind of wording there as these questions are being hypothetically asked and then mentioned there. Because I am not an eye, I am not of the body. That would not make any less a part of the body. Is the way English Standard Version reads. And it's basically just the idea you can complain or whine about your situation, but that doesn't change your situation, right?
No, it does not.
So you can feel sorry for yourself and say, man, I don't get to do all the cool stuff that the hand does or that the foot does.
Right. The head does.
The head does, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that doesn't change your attachment to the body,
Nope.
right?
It sure doesn't.
Mac, what you hit us with a pretty cool idea before we started.
Yeah,
Why
I
don't
just
you
thought
share
it's
that?
interesting, and a lot of times I try to ask questions as I'm studying a text, and what I wanted to consider was why Corinth? Mm-hmm. Why establish a congregation there? Why we have Paul made several visits there.
Yes,
We've
yes.
got several letters there. But we know that before the church was even established there, that Corinth was a sinful city.
Big time.
It was. A lot of people compare it to Las Vegas,
Yeah,
Sin
right.
City, that type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I asked myself, why Corinth?
Mm-hmm.
And then as we were talking, the answer to that is, well, why not
That's right.
Corinth?
That's
They
exactly
needed the
right.
gospel,
Big time.
just as Greenville needs the gospel.
That's right.
Just
You
as
know.
Las Vegas.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Good point.
You know,
Good point.
I knew a preacher for a lot of years who was working in Las Vegas. He's from Tennessee, and he was out suburb of Las Vegas, but I mean, still, you're still
It's
pretty.
how close can you get?
Right. and I would see him on lectureships, and of course he was a Tennessean. I have connections to Tennessee. Still legal for me to travel to Tennessee, so we would talk a bit. We kind of struck up a friendship, and he described it as a very challenging work in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, as you can imagine. I mean, the church was strong, but boy, everything else was really, really in
Yeah.
bad shape.
One other thing is that we view Corinth sometimes because they had so many difficulties. I mean, they had a list. I mean, you could, top 10 list, it'd be a top 20 list.
Right.
But we view them in a negative way, but there was good soil in Corinth.
Big time.
And I actually read of Aquila and Priscilla. Mm-hmm. These were Jews that were converted, and they did a good work.
Indeed.
And so there's good soil in Corinth. There's
right.
good soil in
That's
Greenville.
right.
There's good soil in Las Vegas.
True.
That all need the gospel.
That's exactly right. Corinth was extremely wicked, and unfortunately, the church was impacted by that. There
Yeah.
was a lot of worldliness. There was a lot of carnality in the church at Corinth, and these are themes of the apostles' writings. Their need to kind of heighten their spiritual senses, and more than once, the apostle Paul would talk about our interconnectivity. We're linked together. And so as a church, we're kind of only as strong as our weakest member, so to speak, right? And so 1 Corinthians 12 really pushes this members of the body idea to the center of the table here for us to take a look at. And It is a very powerful bit of teaching, very sensible. I mean, the beauty of this teaching here is that we all get it,
Yeah.
right?
It's not difficult.
It's not
It's not
difficult.
difficult.
And when you're talking about your body especially, you know, oh, wow, I understand what it's like to have a bad knee or a sprained ankle, or how about one of these little bitty cuts right here on the corner of your thumb, right? Yeah.
Yep.
These little things, I mean, these little things, they bother us to no end.
Yep.
We were talking before going on all the hand sanitizing we've been doing,
Yeah.
you know, and every little nick and cut in your
cut.
hand, you feel it.
Yep.
I mean, just like that. So we understand how our body is all interconnected, and it's detrimental to the body to be against another part of the body.
Yeah.
And the lesson in that is, hey, we're all the body in the church. So why do we have elders and preachers fussing? Why do we have Bible class teachers and deacons fussing? Or people who are this age group fussing with people who are that age group? We're all
Right.
part of the same body.
Right.
That's right.
Right, Jeremy?
That's right. That's right. We're absolutely part of the body. And you were thinking about those when I was hearing you talk about the kind of the smaller things, maybe that ache us and pain us a little bit. What about something more serious?
Yeah,
what about
sure,
something
sure.
like if you really have trouble with your heart?
Gee, thanks.
Not anymore, right?
I mean, so that being a prime example, you go get that fixed.
Right.
You know, you say, hey, I know my body and something's not right.
That's
I probably
right.
need to get this checked out.
That's right.
And that's kind of, you know, we kind of have to be self-aware of our own body when we don't, you know, just kind of like it's reading through here. I mean, just because I'm not the eye, don't mean that I can't care about the ear.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
like if my ear, in the body sense of the church, if my ear sits on the other
Right.
side of the pew or the
Yeah,
aisle, and you know we're different, I still need to care about that eye
That's
or that
right.
ear.
That's
So,
You know, no. When you stub your toe, you know, you try to get up and go to the bathroom at night or go get you a drink of water at night. You try not to wake up the whole house, and you bump your knee. You step on one of the kids' toys. The whole body just is in panic mode.
Yeah.
And your body doesn't turn on you. The hand doesn't say, that foot got what it deserved. No good foot, never does anything. No, that's not the way it goes. But you take a body of believers, and when something bad happens to somebody, there's a segment that says, well, he got what was coming to him.
Yeah.
She got what she deserved,
Right.
kind of
Shame.
thing. Shame.
Yep.
Yeah. I see some insecurities going on here in the passage, verses 15, 16. Because I'm not the hand, or because I'm not the ear, woe is me type thing. I'm thinking Jeremy and
Right.
Mac. Woe is me, I'm not the hand, I'm not the eye, I'm just a little old foot, or I'm just a little old nose, or whatever the body parts are there that we're talking about. There's no place for this in a body.
no.
And the point here that the apostle makes is that, you know, being unhappy about your part in the body is no good for the body.
Right.
You don't help anybody out by being insecure about maybe your limitations, right? There's also a bit of pride going on. We didn't read this one yet, Jeremy, but look at verse 21. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you. I don't need, you know, here's a part of the body that's a little superior. I don't need you. Well, you sure do. You want this cup of water? You need your hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter how big or tough the body part is. It all has to work together.
It's funny you say that because I'm sitting here thinking as soon as you said something about that water, my mind immediately goes to, guys, just think about it for just a quick second. Dustin just took a drink. Any of you that just think about biology for just 1 second, think about how many body parts it just took
Yeah.
for Dustin
Make
to take
that-
a drink of that
make
water.
that happen.
Like, I mean, we're not even talking about, brain, hand, lips, mouth, teeth, tongue,
All the
throat.
I don't know what all the innards do.
And then,
but-
and then, like kind of like me and Mac were talking about a little bit earlier. What about all the inside stuff that we don't
Yes.
even
Right.
see?
Right.
Guys, if your inside stuff stops, you let me know if you don't have problems.
That's
with it.
right.
Because
you got told today you're supposed to drink how much water?
64 ounces.
64 ounces.
64 ounces.
Somebody
of water.
pass Mac. He's been-
Well, listen, hey, I've got an interesting fact for you. You know what the smallest muscle in the body is?
the brain? No,
You're talking about me.
the preacher's heart. No, I'm just kidding.
No, actually,
Jokes,
there's a
jokes.
muscle within the eardrum. Now, you think about that, picks up vibrations.
Yeah, with the-
So the smallest muscle hears a baby cry,
Ah,
hears a cry for help, hears
Wow.
the gospel.
that is very.
The smallest muscle.
sort of small as bones are too. I think.
I think so.
I
in the
think
ear.
so. Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
I knew that, didn't you?
This is bro
I Googled
science.
it.
Yeah, I was thinking about the ear earlier, though. You know, a toothache will put you down for the count, buddy.
Yep,
I mean,
done.
a toothache, you're done.
Yep.
An inner ear problem, you know, we think about troubles in the body, and we a lot of times, you know, overlook the harm that little small aches and pains cause. Man, we have members here who occasionally have vertigo.
Yeah.
Little bitty
Right.
ear canal. You think of your whole big old body. You remember the commercial, the soap commercial a while back? They used to talk about all of our 2,000
Oh,
parts.
yeah, that's right. Lever 2000.
Yeah. And here, the whole body, head to toe, and you've got a tiny little ear canal. But if something's wrong with it, you ain't getting out of bed that
No.
day.
Nope.
You're down for the count, huh?
I'm going to change gears just a little bit. I looked at it, and probably 10 to 12 times the word one
Yes,
is used.
I like
about
that
being
too.
one body.
Yes, yes.
And we understand that there is one body.
Yes.
Ephesians tells us that, and that body is the
church,
church.
yes,
We
sir.
know that. So I got to thinking of Jesus' prayer. It's not, the Lord's Prayer.
Sure.
As people will categorize the other, but in
John, right?
yeah,
John
John
17,
17.
yep.
It says, "Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also shall believe on me through their word, that they may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they may also be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me."
That's right.
Paul is echoing the very same thing that Jesus has prayed about,
That's right.
that we be
Exactly.
one. And,
Exactly.
we're many members,
Yes.
but that one body.
And this of course, isn't the first time this has come up in the book of 1 Corinthians.
That's right.
Book of 1 Corinthians rolls right off the lot at you with this plea for unity.
Yes.
In chapter 1, verse 10, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 10, you all be the same.
Yeah.
No divisions among you, united with that same kind of unity that Mac describes, that God the Son and God the Father had, this perfect oneness. And that does get misunderstood a lot. How there can be differences and still yet we're the same. There's unfortunately there's like a unity in diversity type movement, which sounds good. I mean, depending on
Agree to disagree.
yeah, agree to disagree. So it kind of depends on how you look at that. But what a lot of folks do is say, "Hey, you think that you have to be baptized to be saved? We don't. Let's just agree to disagree."
You can't do
And
that.
you're
Can't do
okay,
that.
and I'm
Yeah, that's
okay,
right.
and
Or we're over here teaching this about marriage, divorce, and remarriage. Y'all are over there teaching that. Let's just agree to disagree. Huh?
there's actually a building not far from here, and it's got, I swear, I think it's 3 different groups of Christendom that are in the same building, and it says on the sign, I think it says, I saw it yesterday, 3 churches, 1 something, and that makes me kind of think of that, but that's what people are shooting for, and that's all well and good as long as this is the one,
That's right.
as long as
That's
this is the
exactly
one
right.
that we're kind of using it as our guideline.
Speaking of the body, we zoom out of this and we see not only is the body made up of many members, but you see here there's no head mentioned, right?
Right.
Because the head is Jesus.
That's right.
which the Bible tells us, Ephesians and Colossians, the Bible makes it really clear that Christ is the head of his body, right? And
I like what you said about the unity part.
Yes.
From chapter 1,
Yes,
where so
yes,
much
yes,
division
yes,
is going
yes.
on there, and they're following different
Yes,
preachers and,
yes.
and evangelists or whatever. And to me, that's kind of an underlying
It is.
topic throughout this whole, with division and having his father's wife.
Yeah, true.
Spiritual
true.
gifts.
Yes.
And, there's always this. There's
Yes.
no unity.
That's right.
And one preeminence over another.
Indeed. We were talking before, kind of the prep work for this lesson tonight that we'd be talking about. Sent a group text that we're going to be looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And then I followed it up by saying, the part that talks about the body, and Max said, okay, good. I thought, not the spiritual gift part, right? Not the spiritual gift.
We might be here longer than an hour.
Right. But there is a connection between these.
There is.
Because the church at Corinth had a bad mismanagement of these spiritual gifts.
Right. They did.
And they had, 1 Corinthians chapter 12 begins this kind of section where the apostle is talking to them about their worship practices. And right in the middle of 1 Corinthians 12, 1 Corinthians 14 is, of course, this bit about love, which I
Yeah.
understand we may be talking about next week.
That's right.
So
Isn't it amazing how Paul does that?
yeah, I think so, right? I think that is very strategic and very, effective in talking to them about their unity. They all had different spiritual gifts.
Right.
They had a diversity of spiritual gifts, let's say. And what they wanted to do, of course, and this is not necessarily an uncommon thing today, so listen to the point I'm going to make, and then see how maybe it gets like this today sometimes in our worship assemblies as well. The people who could speak in tongues, they wanted the worship service to be all about that.
Right.
The people who could heal the sick, they wanted the worship service to be all about that. People who could, raise the dead or whatever different spiritual gift they had, there's a number of them that they had given to them from the laying on of the apostles' hands. But whatever they had, they thought was the best, the coolest.
Right.
And they wanted that to be front and center in the worship. So what happened when they came together to worship, you had like a dueling banjos kind of situation where the tongue speakers wanted that to be the main thing. The interpreters wanted that to be the main thing. The healers of the sick wanted that to be the main thing. And in this situation, God was not glorified at all.
No.
Not at all. It's kind of like today when, the song leader thinks, well, singing is the most important part of our worship service.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the preacher thinks, this happens to preachers sometimes, believe it or not. Preacher thinks, oh, well, we're all just here for the sermon. I mean, we all know that, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or the person who presides over the Lord's Supper thinks that's the most important part. When really, what should be happening is all of this works together in harmony
That's right.
for the glory of the Lord. It wasn't too long ago, guys, back in March, we completely changed up
Right.
our worship schedule here at Augusta Road.
Right.
And I remember being up here in this balcony, and me and Andrew and Clint were thinking, okay, how, here's what we got to do.
Yeah.
And let's make sure that we do it in a way that is effective, in a way that honors the Lord. But, we also have some logistics to work out.
That's right.
There were two people, not counting the guy running the computer. And so we were thinking about how can we make a 5-act worship service out of this.
Yeah.
That's right.
And sure, some changes got made. I mean, and that same basic order of service is what we're still doing every Sunday now.
Right.
It doesn't matter how we do these things in the order I'm talking about. It matters that we do them, for the Lord's glory.
That's right.
How do we incorporate each member
Yes.
to feel as though they're an important part of the body.
Yes.
That's always concerned me because, you know, if I'm sitting over here and Jeremy's sitting over here, I may not see Jeremy. I know he was there.
Right.
I see him as I'm leaving the parking lot or
Yeah.
whatever.
See the kids or something.
You see the kid, exactly. But I might miss Jeremy, and that hurts.
Yes.
That's the great thing about the church.
Yes.
Is that being a family, being a body, every member is important. I'm not saying that you're not important,
Right.
but you know, it is so neat. And I know we have a very small foyer.
Yes.
And right now we're trying to social distance.
Yes.
But I always loved it when there's a lot of chatter going on and people are talking and that type of thing. And I always am concerned that someone's going to get missed
That's
and
right.
feel neglected.
That's right.
And I think we can do a better job of that. I can do a better job. I'm
Sure.
not saying we. I said Matt can do a better job.
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, wanting to do that is a big deal. I mean, the fact that you want to go out of your way and speak to somebody. What happens a lot of times is we're really comfortable where we sit.
Yep. Yep.
And we really like the people we sit around, and so after service, we just kind of stay there.
Yep.
You know.
One of the groups that concerns me, because I'm the older group now. I'm the elderly, that old folks now.
Not
is-
just
is-
now, Mac.
yeah, I
You've been there.
understand.
You've been there for a little while now.
Is those kids right out of college.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
we take care of the pew packers, and we've got stuff going on for the youth, and then the younger guys can go out and do things, and it's like those kids that they're out of the youth group, and they're off to college, and they come home, or they stay here, and they're going to school here. And it's
That
kind of like they get
very
left
young
out.
adult
Yeah,
age,
young
yeah.
adult. They don't really fit in with the youth group. They don't really
Yeah.
fit in with the guy that's got some kids,
Yeah.
you know. And that's a concern. And
That
and we've got to
can-
make them feel part of the body.
I agree.
right.
That can be a tough group because, like as you say, they're too old for this and not quite old enough for
Exactly.
for the family.
Yeah, they don't
type
talk about all
get
the
together.
kids and they don't have
Yeah,
kids.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Yes.
Even though married, you know.
Sure,
That's right.
sure, exactly.
And some of
But-
that's just a generational thing. It just so happens that maybe we at Augusta Road have a smaller batch that's in that group right
Yeah,
now.
true.
But that's just maybe right here, right now. you
Yes,
know?
yes.
I'm sure you could remember a time here where that was not the case.
Right.
You know, so I mean, it kind of ebbs and flows and it kind of goes, but it kind of, you know, it pushes you toward, hey, maybe that's where you start leaning on those kids. By hey,
Yeah.
get some of your friends in here.
Yeah,
you
sure,
know?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad thing.
And you know, there's kind of a two-way street to that. I mean, you know, we want to be friendly. Of course, we need an opportunity to be friendly to somebody. You know, someone who comes in late and leaves early. Well, that's I know that's not what we're talking about
Right, it's a little
necessarily.
harder to do, but-
but that one's a little trickier. But you
One
know,
of-
making sure that we make ourselves available, get out of our little comfort zone a
Right.
bit.
Right.
We know you love your family. We know you love who you sit around, but maybe glance in a different direction and go over and
That's right.
meet someone new.
Dustin, what version you got? ESV? What you got,
ESV,
Mike?
yes, sir.
Or King James.
King James. All right, so we got 3 different versions here, and I want to see what y'all says because this ties in, I think, nicely with what Mac was saying. Verse 22.
Yep.
Yeah.
The New American Standard says, on the contrary, so contrary to the things that were below in 20 and 21, where it says, oh, you know, I don't need you, I don't need you. So it says, contrary to that. So it is much truer that the members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary. Did yours say which seem or?
It does. It starts off with nay.
Nay,
Which is a
right?
King James.
On the contrary, yes.
Nay,
Yeah.
much more, those members of the body which seem to be more feeble
Yes.
are necessary.
Yours say seem
Same.
too?
Yep. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. English Standard.
Wow,
Version
see, I
says.
like that one.
Yeah, sure.
So,
but
so
the same idea
seems
about the
to be.
thing. Yeah.
Right. It's the whole idea of we think that poor old Mac is getting up in age, and I just don't know if he's not really, you know, as useful as he used to
Right,
be, or
right, right.
those crazy kids that just graduated college.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
oh, you know, where they're at, you
Yeah.
know. But the ESV reads what, indispensable.
Indispensable. You know, so you think,
important, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, that's
That
pretty
means you
important.
can't do without it.
Right.
You think, you know, that's just a silly old part of the body. I don't need
your
that.
tonsils.
Yeah, your tonsils, or
They get
or your-
removed all the time.
Your little piggy toe, the little piggy that went wee all the way. Remember that one? Addie knows that one. That goes the little bitty toe, man. You try to walk barefoot in the dark,
Lose your balance. You'll lose your balance.
and that little toe decides, you know what? I'm not helping you today. You'll stumble.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what is Paul saying here? Is he saying that, of course, he's telling us about the oneness and the body, but I think he's also saying that every member
Yes.
of that body
Yes.
is important.
Yes.
Indispensable.
Indispensable.
Yeah, and mine
That
says
means
necessary.
that means incapable
Right.
of being dispensed.
Every-
Incapable
Wow.
of being gotten rid of.
Okay, Professor.
Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean by, like, you think about the appendix. People
Yeah.
have their appendix removed and their tonsils removed regularly.
That's right.
But most people that you talk to, once they get their appendix and or their tonsils
Yeah.
removed, they have like so many problems after that.
I see,
They
I
get
see.
sick all the time with sinus infections. Their belly hurts them. The appendix, they don't do anything. Yeah, right. It is
Yeah.
indispensable.
Indispensable for sure. And the point is, or a point is, in addition to what we're talking about, is God has composed the body this way. This is verse 24. This is lesson time. The Lord made the body this way, and it's important. Each member is important. There's not a whole lot that you can do without. And all of these bodies work together for an effective whole.
Right.
And that's we're talking about the body, we're talking about the appendix and the old ribs and whatever else it is, the little baby toe. But we're also talking about the church. We're primarily talking about the church.
Amen.
Because as Paul kind of brings it on home in verses 27, 28, 29 here, he's going to talk about the makeup of the Lord's church. Are they all apostles? Are they all prophets? Are they all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all possess the gift of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Don't know what it was about these folks in Corinth, but they really loved this tongue speaking
Yeah,
thing.
that's right.
I'm sure it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was cool, but they really loved them some speaking in tongues. And they thought, it appears that they thought this was the coolest, most important spiritual gift of all.
Part of it could have been a geographic thing tying back to Corinth because of
Maybe,
where it was at.
yeah.
Corinth was a
hub
central
of the world,
hub,
yeah,
right,
you're
of
right,
the world.
you're right.
So, it would have been cool if you could talk to everybody that came in.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
So,
Indeed. And Paul is making the case, okay, we don't all do the same thing. And you know what? Not only is that okay, sometimes in the church we say, hey, we don't all do the same thing, and that's okay. Kind of like, it's a consolation prize if you don't. Not everyone can preach, and that's okay. Well, not only is it okay, it's the way the Lord made it to be.
that's right.
Not only is it okay that we don't all do the same thing, it's vital that we don't all do the
Amen.
same thing.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
Because if everyone, we hear this in preaching school a lot. If everyone preached, who'd we preach to?
Yeah,
right.
If the whole body was an eye, where would the smelling be? If the whole body was an ear, where would the seeing be? We can't be carbon copies of everybody else.
Nope.
That's not the way we function as a body. It's also not the way we reach the world.
No.
Everyone being just like you is, as much as you are pro you, everyone being just like you is not the way this church needs to be.
Nope.
Right.
Everyone being just like me, as much as I like me, is not the way this church needs to be.
That's right. That's a lot of the variety that comes in with some of the things that were going on in Corinth, kind of like what you were talking about. Is like, why not Corinth? There were tons of different people there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you read about it and you see all of the different things and the differentnesses about them. Yeah, we're all different, but we're all different for a reason, because we are all different parts to one body. And just like Dustin said, we got to be different,
Yes.
So
Yes, we have to be different, and I like the word that you used, variety, because that illustrates, the complementary nature of all of these things. We're not talking about some sort of diverse, completely different. We have human parts on our body if things are the way they're supposed to go. I understand. Modern science can do a lot of things these days, and you can get fixed up with some different animal parts. But for things to be the way they're supposed to be, I mean, yeah, we all have the parts that God gave us, and they're different, but they all came from the Lord, and they complement each other.
That's right.
One thing I've always found interesting, and I just looked it up in the closing of the book of Romans, Paul gives a list of people that we don't know a whole lot about.
That's right.
It's not
That's
not
right.
Apollos, and it's not Peter and Paul and James. It's not those pillars
That's
in
right.
the church that
That's
we think of. And I would mess up the names, but there's verses after verses
Yes.
of people who were listed that were my fellow servants,
That's
my
right.
kinsmen,
That's right.
my laborers.
Isn't that cool?
That's
people-
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about these people. They may have been the guy that
right.
took out the trash.
Yeah, yeah.
Made sure
Exactly.
his home was
Listen.
set up for the next week or whatever.
Yeah.
I tell you, I mean, all we know about them is that they meant something to Paul.
Exactly.
And man, wouldn't
And
like
they're mentioned.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They were on when Paul was thinking about people in the church and workers and beloved brethren. That's who he thought of.
Exactly.
And buddy, that sounds like it'd be pretty awesome.
Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
awesome to have your name written in
That's
there?
right. That's right.
Nobody knows why,
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah.
but
Nope.
it's written.
I mean, not many folks can be an Apostle Paul.
Right.
But how about one of those people that the Apostle Paul looked at and said, "Man, thank you. I needed that."
That's
Yes.
right.
I
I couldn't have done this without
I couldn't
you.
have done this without
Yep.
you.
Hey, salute him or pray for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, Mac, the fellow who opens up the church building.
Exactly.
A lot of people outside of the Augusta Road Church of Christ in Greenville, South Carolina, they might not know Mr. Robert. But I tell you, every one of us here, we know him because he's the first. When we're not in a worldwide pandemic, he's the first one to
first
show
one to
up,
be. Yep.
opening that door, counting those people.
That's right.
And I tell you what, that is a serious good thing that needs to be done. I mean, very cool. I love that point. Mac, that there are a lot of people that, they're just names on a page to us.
Exactly.
Names, like you said, names that we don't even get right half the time we say them.
It's a whole chapter of them.
Yeah,
actually,
right.
So-
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. So I looked at, some of the big lessons in chapter 12, verses 22, 23, 24. One of the big takeaways is, hey, this body's the way the Lord wants it to be.
Yeah.
It'd be awfully insulting to your maker to say, man, how come my arms are up here? Wouldn't it make more sense if my legs were right here? So I go, no. Well, apply that to the church. What happens a lot of times is people look at the church and they look at it through the lens of, well, why can't we have this?
Yeah.
Or why can't women do that? Or why do, these people do this? Well, the Lord has set up his church the way he wants it. Mm-hmm. The Lord has set up his church
The old
way
King
he
James
wants it.
says, "But God hath tempered the body together."
Yes.
It almost sounds like it is molding and shaping and fashioning it the way He is intended.
And what verse is that?
24.
24,
Yeah.
yes. God has composed the body.
Composed
the
body.
Is that what yours says?
composed,
and
yeah.
tempered, yes.
Tempered.
Very good.
That's right. And giving more abundant honor to the member that lacked. That's what I was sitting there kind of thinking about this, about how the body was put together, and I made a note and I thought about it earlier, but the whole body needs to be healthy.
Indeed.
And it kind of references a
you're-
little bit to like what you were talking about, stubbing your toe and like your
Yeah.
whole body feels it. But just imagine if it was something a little more serious than that.
Yes.
Imagine if it were something, I mean, dare say cancer, dare say something you really have zero control over. you have an unhealthy body then.
Yes.
And I hate to sound like this, but my finger, if it were its own member, it wouldn't care that I had pancreatic cancer.
Right.
Probably wouldn't be a big deal as we kind of read that is in this verse. But the whole body, we desperately need the whole body to be healthy. Because no matter what, if you feel insignificant or you feel like that you're a big player, a big part of the body, if a little part of the body goes down according to the way we read this, it's all going down.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it's all going down. It doesn't matter what I do, what Dustin does, what Mac does, what anybody that maybe has a God-appointed role to stand up and do some things. It doesn't matter. If we get sick and we get cancer and we don't make sure we take care of it, and by cancer I mean problems and sin and uncorrected and unaddressed things that we need to take care of and make better. If we don't address that thing, we're all going down.
That's right. That's
But
exactly right.
interesting that, you mentioned the finger. The rest of the body better pay attention
That's
to that.
right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
So if one member is hurting,
That's right.
we need to pay attention to that.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have to compensate somehow. Maybe this
Yeah.
hand helps take care of this
Right.
finger, but
That's
your
right.
mind knows it
Sure,
hurts.
sure.
You do something.
That's right. Yeah.
It's got to be taken care of.
Indeed.
Yep.
Indeed. Otherwise, it spreads and
Exactly.
causes a bigger problem.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
Or it falls off.
or falls off.
mean,
and
you say
then you're without it. The first I was right out of preaching school. I was an associate minister for about a year or so, and I worked alongside a preacher named Ray, and Ray did not have a right hand, and it was a very strange story. He lost it in a meat grinder when he was an adult. So he lived his whole childhood with able body, with his hand, and then lost it. And he spoke to me numerous times about that whole ordeal. And I mean, you relearn everything, right? Even down to shaking hands, which is something we did back in the day, shake hands. If you're watching this from the future, you have to look that up and see what that's all about. But he had to relearn that, tying his shoes.
Right.
Buttoning his shirt, anything.
Everything, man. And he told me, he said, Dustin, I can't explain how agonizing it is when that hand goes to itching and you can't scratch it because it's not there. Right? Because all the nerve, all the, I'm not a scientist, y'all, but all the nerve endings and whatnot
Right.
carried, I mean, they led
phantom
to a
pain.
hand that wasn't there.
Phantom pain
Right?
thing, yep.
I also think of, like Don Blackwell and his tragic situation. I mean, talk about a man who you don't have to say much to about how the body works anymore these days. I mean, he gets it. He understands that a body's supposed to work and function in unity. And man, when there's a part of the body that can't or won't do what it's supposed to do. So a lot of people sit still in the church building and in their relationship with the Lord. They sit still for months, years maybe, and they act like it's no big deal. Somebody else will do it.
Right.
Well, we're a body, y'all, and it's not okay for you just to decide, you know what, I'm a member of this body, but I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Somebody else to do it. You know what happens when that takes place in a physical body? You wear out the other part.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's what happens.
You know, I've seen this 22, 23 years of ministry. People, a bad hip or a bad knee, and they get it replaced, and then guess what? Then the good one's bad because for all these years the good one's been compensating for the bad one, and it wears out quicker. You don't want to be the bad knee or the bad hip or the bum shoulder in the Lord's church.
Nope.
That everybody's got to work around and baby and make sure, we don't hurt it any more than it already is. You don't want to be that.
Yeah. And you don't want to be the one that's not not getting the physical attention or the care that you need as well.
Sure.
You know, I would imagine you've probably been put on an exercise regimen,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
To help take care of some
Right.
things, to strengthen some things.
You can't
If you-
tell it for that loud shirt he's got on, but he's lost some weight. If you might have to turn down the TV because Mac's shirt's so loud.
That's it.
But when you don't work out, when you don't, and I don't mean work out, but when you don't use something, it atrophies.
That's right.
When it atrophies, it shrinks, and when it shrinks, it gets to the point where it can't function anymore.
That's right.
And you cannot do that.
That's exactly right.
So, and I say that as a member of the body.
That's right.
I say that as a member of the body, and I don't want any body parts to not be active, to not be healthy.
That they were made to be used. I mean, it like the parable of the talents teaches. You know, we were given this ability from the Lord to use it.
That's right.
Not to save it, not to keep it nice and pretty and shiny and give it back to the Lord when He comes back.
Right.
No.
You know, I'm thankful and very thankful that there are men within this congregation who can preach and lead singing and give devotionals, and they've got talents.
That's right.
So instead of being jealous or anxious or whatever, they're doing things. I need to strengthen my talents.
That's right.
I need maybe I can't lead singing.
I was just thinking that,
Believe me, I
Mac.
can't lead
I was
singing.
just thinking that.
But there are things I can do,
Yes.
and they don't have to be seen.
That's
They-
right.
You know, if it's just come up here and make sure the air's on or
That's
whatever.
right.
You know.
Or encourage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about just encourage?
Exactly.
Or you know, I mean, real life example of how this works. I can't lead singing. Matt can't lead singing. We promised our wives we never would, you know. But hey, how about a closing prayer? You know, you lead the closing prayer, and then that person who always leads the closing prayer, you know what? Maybe he'll preside over the Lord's Supper.
Yeah.
You know, and then the person who always presides over the Lord's Supper, he'll get a little break.
Check
Or
this
maybe
out.
the person who presides over the Lord's Supper, he'll say, hey, you know, I could lead singing.
Yeah.
And then even further than
everything
that.
everything is just warm and lubricated, and the body's working like it's supposed to work.
So look, take it further on down the line. I know we're getting close on time, but take it further down the line than that. We were talking about this earlier. So the guy that's leading singing, the one that normally would do it,
Yes.
you know what he's able to do now? He's able to sit with his
That's
family
right.
Yeah.
and keep up with his kids.
That's
You know,
right.
I mean, we
That's
talked about
exactly
that.
right.
And we
Yeah.
say that, and like I said, we're speaking about men serving right
Sure,
at this
sure.
moment. But everybody has a role.
That's right.
Just like every body part has a purpose.
That's right.
And we said, oh, some are lesser. That's not, no. They're all indispensable.
That's right.
Brothers and sisters, I can't be any clearer about this. We need every single one of you to
right.
support the body in whichever way you can.
That's right.
If you need somebody to say, hey, I need your help in supporting this,
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are people, I've heard it. I've heard people say, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do. There are people that are like that.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
There are members of the body that will say, just tell me what to do, I'll do it.
I live with a woman who's pretty good at telling you what to do. You know, we had this past Sunday we had a very nice. Did y'all like the graduate
did.
thing?
It was
good.
I thought it was very well done. You know,
Tearjerker.
Yeah, a little tearjerker, right? Something like that. From the outside looking in, like, you just played a slideshow and went outside and ate. Well, yeah, yeah, that would be one way of looking at it.
Right.
But
That
that
would be the
slide
wrong way.
that slideshow had to get made,
Yeah.
and the lady who worked on that worked really, really hard on that slideshow.
Well, I like Jeremy's comment about just encouraging.
That's right. That's
You know,
exactly
That's
Just
what
a
I
word of
got.
encouragement.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean,
Yeah.
that goes a long way.
You know, instead of going, there are countless examples of this. Instead of going up to somebody and telling them how bad their closing prayer was, you know, a lot of times people who first do something in the public worship, a lot of times it's the closing prayer, right?
Yeah, I
I
can
mean,
see that. Yeah, yeah.
it's a good low pressure way to start.
That's right. Yeah.
And
And it may be read.
Yeah.
He may
Oh
have written
man.
it down.
Yeah.
A lot of my prayers that I first started saying, I wrote them out. I mean,
I
I
did too.
absolutely,
That's why I said that. I
I
did that.
absolutely wrote them out. I had no idea how to pray, and so I thought, well, I can read, so I'll do. But you take maybe a relatively new Christian who's leading the closing prayer, and he's nervous, and maybe he stumbles over a word or two. Maybe the microphone scares him for whatever reason. And then somebody comes up to him afterwards and says, well, I couldn't hear what you said. You know?
Yeah.
Guess.
Boy, that was a short prayer.
Yeah. Or what? You forgot this or that. Guess who's not going to raise his hand to lead the closing prayer next time?
Have y'all ever heard that saying, cut your nose off to spite your face?
Yes, sir.
That's that idea.
It is
I mean,
that
that
idea.
you
It
would
is
cut
that
your
idea.
nose off just to spite your face.
That's right.
Don't do that.
No, don't do
Don't
that.
do that.
Or you know, the song leader was bad for whatever reason, or the preacher was bad for whatever reason. Listen, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Don't do that.
What good is it to be against
Your own body.
your own body?
Yeah.
Your own body.
That's exactly right.
Good lesson, guys.
Yeah, good job. Hey, if we can ever be of service to you as the Lord's body, we would love that opportunity very, very much. The Church of Christ today is the Lord's body here on earth. And what we do is exactly what the Lord did when he was here with us. Seek and save the lost was a primary mission of Jesus. Jesus also helped people. Jesus also taught. He encouraged. He did all of this stuff with love and care for your soul. And that's what the Church of Christ is today. So if we can be of service to you in any way in your relationship with the Lord, coming to the Lord and forming that relationship, hearing, believing, repenting, confessing, and being baptized, we would love to help you in that way. Or help you as a member of the Lord's body. Most folks watching this, I reckon, are Christians. You're members of the Lord's body. And hopefully tonight's lesson encourages us to see that we need to be the best body part we can be and make sure that we're helping make a stronger, healthier, better functioning body. We're going to sing a song together. Join in with us as we sing this song. Thank you so much for watching tonight.
Oh, how sweet 'twill be to meet the Lord when he comes in glory by and by. What a song of praise will be outpoured when he comes in glory by and by. How sweet 'twill be, how sweet 'twill be when he comes again in the lovely sky. What joy 'twill be, what joy 'twill be when he comes in glory by and by. We will have our robes all white as snow when he comes in glory by and by. Oh, be ready with the Lord to go when he comes in glory by and by. How sweet 'twill be, how sweet 'twill be when he comes again in the lovely sky. What joy 'twill be, what joy 'twill be when he comes in glory by and by. I am longing for that happy day when he comes in glory by and by. For with him I hope to soar away when he comes in glory by and by. How sweet 'twill be, how sweet 'twill be when he comes again in the lovely sky. What joy 'twill be, what joy 'twill be when he comes in glory by and by. How sweet 'twill be, how sweet 'twill be when he comes again in the lovely sky. What joy 'twill be, what joy 'twill